right. I think I'm a little nervous about this episode.
I know. I am too. We're looking at stepping into something big.
Well, we can't keep talking about ourselves.
Well, this still is.
Although after this episode, they may say, go back to talking about yourself.
I mean, this is talking about ourselves.
It is.
Though. It is talking about our experience, and it is talking about our opinion and our knowledge and our lack of knowledge and
all that lies in between.
Yeah, absolutely.
So who are we and what are we talking about? Oh, hi.
Hello.
Sonya Lee.
And Piperlyne.
And you are listening to In My Experience. And today we are going to look at the interesting topic, I say that tongue in cheek, of tribalism, or as we were discussing it earlier, the us versus them theory of life.
Right. I mean, if we're just going to be straight up honest and truthful, we are seeing it play out everywhere.
Everywhere.
I mean, you can choose any topic and there is an us versus them.
And we did, because there were, what started the conversation made me a little uncomfortable with going on the air about, because I don't need the cancel culture coming after me. Cancel. And then yet, as we continued to talk, we saw where, well, it could also be this, and it also shows up here, and it's look at it there. And so we had 5 or 6, which led us to then look at the overarching theme of these issues, these situations, these challenges that we experience in this human, experience. This human realm.
I mean, yeah, as we've said before, we always start out with a conversation. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we both walk into this conversation at the beginning before we record and say, yes, we are going to talk about this. I am moved. This is it.
Yes.
And I had something in my head last night. I'm like, this would be good. Let's talk about this. And I got to Sonya's and I'm like, I got nothing.
And I'm like, I got nothing.
So we've been chatting for about an hour now, and this is what came up, the tribalism that we're seeing in humanity, and we're bringing it up because it's experiencing it in the realm of what we're seeing and what we're hearing and what we're feeling, absolutely. And so as a general working definition for us for tribalism for today, it has to do with anything that separates you from another group of people and puts you in a versus. Or
binds you to another group of people.
There you go.
As a unity.
Right. So this is classic. This is old human stuff. Mm-hmm. This is how back in the day.
Yes. way back in the day.
Not back in the day when we were 5, but back in the day, where you literally figured out whether someone was friend or foe based off of whether they were in your tribe, whether they were from your area, whether they spoke your language, whether your family knew them.
Right.
Whether they were the same race, whether they had the same beliefs, all of these things. Did I miss anything?
No, but even before the race and the beliefs things, it was just simply you come from our region or you don't.
Right.
Right.
And therefore you are safe
or you
plant the seed
and you harvest the fields and you hunt for the stores of the winter, or you're an outsider.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was how we kept ourselves safe. And looking at that very instinctual, very instinctive way of being, it worked for us. Mm-hmm. So now we're in a place in this life where we meet people who are different than us on a regular basis, and we learn about we learn about people and we hear about people all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we mentioned, Sonya was talking about a story that she heard regarding the homeless population in Portland.
Right.
And I remember seeing a story about the homeless population in Seattle and what was going on with that, and how they were just, their things were being gathered up and thrown in the garbage.
Right. And how long ago was that?
It was last week, I think.
When you were in Portland?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. The story on Seattle.
Oh, I got you. Yes.
I lived in Portland from 2006 to 2008, and I lived downtown.
Right.
And, you know, and yes, there was a homeless population, because there's just about any city you go to, there's a homeless population.
Yes, there is.
And they were there. But it was not to the levels that is being experienced now by Portland.
Yeah.
And we can talk about how the homeless population in LA too is not to the levels that it was. And so it's really easy if you're a business owner, or if you're someone who is inconvenienced or challenged or troubled by the homeless population, to really step into the us versus them.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Because it's hurting your ability to have your livelihood.
Right.
And,
right. They're screwing things up.
And as a taxpayer, you know, that's paid for the space to be there, you believe that right is that you should be there and they should not.
Right. Right.
Which, although fair enough,
which is understandable.
But where do they go?
Right.
And this is where I go to. This is a bigger issue that's not being addressed by those that we have deigned to be the authority and policymakers for all of us.
Right.
And that's not the only area where I'm not seeing the all of us being cared for, being addressed, being supported, being acknowledged.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And it's so one of the very first things that Sonya said when we started talking is like, what do we do? What do we, like, you and me, she and I,
right?
You, if you are asking this question also, what do we do when all of this is so big? And once again, it is everywhere. And like Sonya mentioned with the us versus them, you versus me, the you group, whatever you are a part of, can be just as limiting, right? Well, this is your group title, and if you carry this group title, then you can't be that way.
Yeah.
Or we won't let you into our tribe.
Right, we're going to kick you out because now you're different too.
Right.
Pretty soon there's nobody left in the group because everyone's been kicked out for one reason or another.
And we have ostracized everybody.
And maybe that's what needs to happen in order for everybody to realize that, hey, like, and I find it interesting too, because like I always talk about how, you know, it's all internal, right? You have to go within and deal with within. And so in some ways you would think that makes it about the individual.
Right.
But the process is about the individual. How you show up in life is part of the collective. Mm-hmm. Unless, of course, you choose to go live in the 4 hours by yourself somewhere, which is my plan.
I resemble that remark.
Right? and even at that, though, the challenge for me is, well, then isn't that just kind of like, you know, sticking your head in the sand, walking away from the problem?
Right.
And, I mean, I'm a solutions girl. I'm a problem solver.
Give me the issue and I'll come up with an answer. Yeah.
And I get really frustrated when I can't because there's so many buts, which is a 4-letter word for me. And so, you know, we sit here this morning talking about this, and my hesitation to talk about it is because I don't have any easy, clear answers. And I don't want to just talk about and rehash all the bad shit that's going on in this world.
Right.
I mean, part of the reason that brings this internal churning is the fact that as an empath, I feel the external discourse.
Right.
And and detachment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a weariness among us of how much longer and what is it exactly this week that we are supposed to be caring about or incensed by or rallying for or again. And again, it makes me think of like not my ancestors, we weren't part of the Hatfield McCoys, but I'm sure there were some Floyds and some others back there on the mountain. I don't know.
On the mountain in Tennessee or
in
Kentucky.
Virginia.
Yeah.
That, for whatever reason, there had this similar issue. It's a global thing now.
Right.
Right? And like we said before, we were talking earlier about autism and how people that talk about their autism today, it's hard for mothers that are raising children to line up with what they're saying, either because they're not there yet or it just doesn't apply to their child and what their child's needs are, because that too is shifting and changing and evolving as more information comes to light, as these little star seeds come here that vibrate at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And again, and I take that back to, we started out as knuckle dragging Neanderthals, and then now here we are coming upon human 3.0.
Right.
So I get that we are spirits in transit. And I fear that we're just not paying attention because we're just so bombarded,
right, by
issues.
Well, there's so much information that's available.
It can be information overload, and it's like,
right.
what's the the issue du jour?
Right, absolutely. When I first started the nonprofit that I started back in 2011, I was absolutely shocked by the infighting that was going on within that larger community. So it was the twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, which is what my twin boys faced when I was carrying them when I was pregnant. And because of everything that was going on in my life and outside of in that community, myself and some other mothers joined together to create this nonprofit. So I was shocked because it's a fucking charity.
Right.
We're helping babies,
right.
or we're supposed to be helping babies. And I was blown, and the parents, absolutely. Right. And I was blown away with the infighting that was going on, right? Mm-hmm. I walked in this totally innocent. I didn't have anything to do with charities beforehand. Yeah. I didn't know what I was doing. We were making it up as we went along.
Right.
So then I experienced that. Then there was also another charity that helped babies and families of another congenital issue that I became a part of because my nephew died from that same thing. And I learned that it was the exact same thing going on with that charity, with lawsuits even. I mean, we never got to the lawsuit stage, but lawsuits. And then my son, when he was diagnosed with autism, stepped into that space of participating in the autism groups. Right? Trying to find support and like-minded and ideas, and because there's a lot of challenges that go along with your child receiving that diagnosis. And so going through that, once again, blown away by the amount of infighting that was going on between the groups. You're right, you're wrong, you're abusing your child, you're not caring for them enough. And except for the charity that I started,
right,
which actually I have stepped back from. I have stepped back from so much, and I was thinking about it, looking at my social media just yesterday, last night, June of last year. I posted very, very little, and I have stopped posting about my son. I have stopped posting a lot of personal information and just pulling back because I was feeling that there was nothing that was safe to share.
Right.
And so my ability, because I don't fit in with any group regarding the autism subgroups that are around. I don't fit in with any group regarding the two charities that I've been involved with either. There's other groups that I could be a part of that I simply don't fit in because I am seeing the tribalism. You either agree with point, or you don't belong here. So I literally don't belong anywhere when it comes to raising my son.
Yeah. Because as we've talked about before, you're probably going to write a book about it. I'm totally with you. I've not been a fan of organizations or groups like that myself. Because
and so it doesn't.
I've always been an outsider. I don't know what to tell you.
Right. Well, I have been too, and I should know just to remain that way.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to say.
Well, I'm going to say.
What did you think you was going to walk it? No, I'm kidding. This is also part of the issue, and this is part of my issue, right? Because that's a me versus them attitude,
right?
And I have to address that,
right?
Because the me versus them says, well, you either care or you just have to not care. And then go on with your life. And I'm like, really? Those are my only options? It's that black and white? I don't know.
Because when it comes down to it, I mean, for me, that may work while I'm pissed. Right?
Correct.
Right? If you piss me off,
then
which
I'm
happens,
like,
then I'm like, I don't even care.
No.
You just do whatever.
Right?
I don't even care. I'm going to be over here and do my thing. And so, that's how I roll.
Healthy. Personally, isn't that healthy?
Well, it works.
Does it feel healthy?
But remaining angry,
yes,
doesn't for me it doesn't work. It's a waste of time and energy.
Changing your entire viewpoint on life as a result of that, and sort of the broad stroking of the pen to label, everything with that, I think is, the pendulum swinging way far to the other side. I think sometimes, though, it's healthy to take a step back and reassess and look at, really, what is this for me and what can I offer here?
Right.
Because I think that, like you said, once you get over being pissed,
right,
then that's when the calmer head prevails and you're able to look at it with that critical eye and analyze and decide, what was it? I wish that was engaged by more people.
Well, and and we can talk about our circle also, right? The new age, so we call it, for lack of a better word.
The old age.
Old age. The old new age. The new old age.
The new old age.
Community where we live, right? And it's fairly large.
Yeah, it's getting bigger every day.
For
thanks to Gwyneth and her vajayjay. I'm kidding. Oprah, whomever, I don't know. Well, what are you following these days? I don't know.
Well, see, that's the thing. So you look at it, and I don't fit in that group either. I'm just gonna throw it out there. I have found that I don't fit in that group either.
Well, we talked about the be your own guru thing too.
Right.
But the other piece of that is that you also have to. You don't have to do anything, but when you look at that, you do look at. Hopefully, I know I did, because it seems so great. I found my tribe. I literally said that.
Right. Oh, I can't count how many times I've heard people say that.
I found my people. I found my tribe. And then after a while, I was like, oh,
no.
Maybe not.
Not to my tribe.
That's surprising. Well, then I guess I don't have a tribe, because this was like my last hope.
So if you don't have a tribe, then you either, what do you do? Mm-hmm. I mean, like, literally, because people are experiencing that everywhere. Well, this group, whatever title this group has for you, was safe and accepting, and you all agreed, and you could share, and so on and so forth. And that is going away.
Yeah.
It's falling away. So what do you do when you don't have a tribe? And I think that's really hard for a lot of people, and it's scary and it's lonely and it's sad.
It's also very observational from a, not because there is no engagement.
Mm-hmm.
So you're on the outskirts, sort of like outside the fishbowl looking in.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can bring its own challenges or dysfunctions or frustrations or whatnot. I do find, though, that when I meet fellow edge walkers, we'll call them, they're like hanging around the fringers. We'll call them fringers. That most of them, some of them, well, most all of us are a bit misanthropic. And within that, some of us have taken a more philosophical approach.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay just sitting out here observing everything that's going on inside the fishbowl, maybe jotting a little line down or something, versus the others that are maybe feeling outcast, because there's that piece too.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm never going to have a tribe. I'm never going to have a family. I'm never going to have a partner. I'm never going to have a never. And then the ones that are just, you know, Mel Gibson, you know, and just, you know, I'm Mad Max, you know, going my own way here. Did I cover them all?
I think so. Other than, I think I would add with outcast, those who remove themselves and still feel like an outcast because they feel like they didn't have a choice. And then those who are literally outcasted.
Cast out.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Those who are literally going back to the homeless population, going back to, you know, people who are mentally ill, people with disabilities.
Oh, yes.
Those people who do not meet or whatever definitions.
In some countries, it's women.
Yeah.
And girls.
Absolutely.
Because at that level, it doesn't even matter. The tribalism is you're not male, so you're not valued. And that's in a larger portion of our world, because globally they're still the most marginalized, discriminated.
Right. Still very much an issue.
And, you know, part of me is like, you know, wouldn't it be lovely if we could just find some balance within you do you, boo, I'm gonna do me, and if you need something, give a holler, you know, and I'll lend a hand. Otherwise, we're just gonna take care of ourselves, right, in our little space on the planet here. That's fantasy. I admit that. However, I'm ever hopeful, because I've had experiences in my life where I have been supported in many different communities. And I've also had to, you know, find my own way, work my own way, you know, live my own life. So I struggle with this tribalism thing, because there is a part of me that's like, well, and I wonder, is it because it's sort of, if you don't have a sense of belonging to a group, then are you really accepted here? Well, I never wanted to be here in the first place, so why the hell would I want to be accepted here? And yet there's those moments where you feel that twinge of, you know, I don't enjoy being rejected as such. And I think that's the bigger issue for me too. We're just so very, very quick these days to cancel or reject with, and yes, I understand that there are some situations where, you know, we take the loaded gun out of the toddler's hand, then we talk with the toddler about why it's not safe for them to play with guns, not counting the fact that why was there a loaded gun lying around for a toddler? I digress. And you still, I feel like, you know, it's like going to prison, right? And we just keep filling prisons with people, but where's the rehabilitation?
Right.
Where is there the chance to allow for there to be any hope of anything other than just to spend your life in incarceration? And, you know, maybe there's some karmic balancing there that it says, you know, and again, this is what I struggle with, because I want to run in there and see what we can do to make this work a little better for everyone. And then free will stops me and says, what if everything is absolutely perfect as such? And you're doing your job just by looking at it all and talking about it right here and now.
Right. And that's a really, really, really hard concept for a lot of people to embrace, especially when they're in a very painful or difficult place themselves.
Right. Like I sit here going, how does that help anyone?
Right, right. And I have come in my life to come to that, decided to come to that space, because that's what works for me. I'm not here to tell anyone ever that whatever horrible situation you're in, you're supposed to be, oh, well, this is absolutely perfect, because that's not my place, right? And you're not either. No, you're not either. But I have found that personally for me, when I can come to that space, then I am actually empowered to make a change. It doesn't mean that it's okay in the sense of, you know, if you're in a terrible situation and say you're being abused, it doesn't mean it's okay that you're being abused.
Not at all.
And it doesn't mean that you signed up and that you're supposed to be abused either. That's not the concept.
And it doesn't say that if you find yourself in that situation and you stay, then that you then deserve to be abused.
Right, right. It's none of that. It's simply looking at the situation. Okay, I'm being abused. And this is what it is. And now I'm going to see what I can do about it. If I'm going to do anything about it. And these are really hard concepts. Sonya and I were talking about that too. These are really hard concepts to discuss without experiencing.
They are. There are so many things that I could share from my life that would, in my mind, bring hope and empower and inspire people to, you know, just keep moving forward every moment of the day.
Right.
And yet I clearly understand that if you don't have the eyes to see, the ears to hear, the senses to sense that this is possible for you, then it's not going to work.
Then it can seem...
you're not even going to try it.
No, it can seem like an attack. It can seem like...
Right.
I mean, it can seem
or
abusive.
Privilege.
Right. Absolutely.
And therein is where I hesitate, because I don't speak lightly from a space of entitlement. When I speak from a space of experience.
Right.
Now, my experience may have been helped or hindered by that privilege. And to me, that is outside of me. I can only deal with what is inside of me and how I want to show up as a human. And as long as I continue to have these differences and these inconsistencies be the thing that I have to focus on every day, I can't get to a space of where I can focus on the thing, which is how do we correct this and create and bring more equality,
right,
in any
environment. Yeah. Yes, everywhere.
Like I'm not about flaying myself. I'm about being part of the solution.
Right.
And I'm also very much about the you can do it attitude, because it's my hope for humanity.
Right.
That we can get away from the tribalism, or just all become one great big tribe.
Right.
Of many different layers.
Well, that goes back to, I think it was before we logged on, the dehumanization. Right? When we, as humans, we want to be social, right? That's been proven over and over again by science. And it's a heck of a lot easier for us to be social when we're with people that support us. Right?
Or like-minded.
Right. Yeah, that we can share with. And then, so not saying that that should change. No. Not my opinion is that that should always be available.
Sure.
But when it turns to us versus them, then it's a problem. Then we are infighting, and then we're not actually dealing with the problems that are occurring in our life in this world, because there are many things to be addressed for the betterment of all of humanity. And when one of the key things for humans to be able to commit violence or atrocities on other humans has to do with dehumanizing the other, has to do with seeing them as less than, right? So you may still think that they're human, not to be taken literally, but they're less than you in somehow.
Correct.
And so when they are less than you, and I mean, we see this economically too, right? How much money do you make? You only make $10 an hour. Well, obviously you're less than me.
Right.
I mean, that's one of our favorite capitalist
I used to
country
love to say
things
to
that we
doctors when I was 45 minutes into waiting to be seen after I made an appointment 6 weeks in advance, and literally would say to them, "Hey, look, doc, my time is valuable as well, and I make quite a bit per hour also.
Right.
So we need to do this better next time." Right. And it literally made some doctors very uncomfortable with that statement. But, you know, because you're a doctor and you're charging me $150 for the 15 minutes that I'm going to see you, you know, and I had to give you another 45 to wait in your office, that's an hour of my time now, right? So, a little bit different on that. But one of the things I was kind of, I digress. No, but, you know, but this, again, when you can see things, and again, I've worked to understand, and I've had the benefit of seeing things through a different lens to be able to understand that I have value too, regardless of how much I make per hour. And I will fight to stand for my right to stand right here in front of you. But as you were speaking earlier, I was thinking about a situation where in real estate and training and things, one of the things that I learned when I was doing a train the trainer, and in order to do agent development, was that a term called clumping. And I hadn't heard that term before then, but it was so true, and now I can't not see it in every situation. And basically what clumping is when anyone goes through anything together, whether it's a weekend workshop like the Train the Trainer, which is 5 days of hell, but it was fabulous, or some sort of tragedy or some sort of an event, that when people, but we'll just stick with like a workshop, a 4-day weekend, or maybe like a conference or a convention. And a group of people will come together and they'll have a commonality sitting at the table or whatever. And then the next thing you know, those 5 or 6 people or those 4 people or those 12 people, they're doing everything together. They've become a clump. And so what we learned in the training was you got to break up those clumps. Yeah.
I was just going to say, as a teacher, that is something that you see, or as a trainer,
you do.
You see
all the time.
That you intentionally choose.
It is amazing. We inherently want to tribe up, right?
Right.
Group ourselves, find match the memory cards, you know? And there's nothing wrong with that, except that there is. Because what we learned in training was that they tend to circle ranks, right? If you're going to have resistance, it's going to be that group that's come together because there's safety in numbers. Also, it limits their ability to learn.
Right.
Because when you move them around, it's uncomfortable.
Right.
It forces them into an uncomfortable space, meaning now I'm sitting at a new table. And so every day, we could not sit with anyone that we had sat with, any group of table. We had to sit at a different table every day.
Right.
With different people.
Right.
Now, the beauty of that was over the course of 5 days, you know, we get a lot of different perspectives and meet a lot of different, and interact with a lot of different people. And some days were good days, and some days were not so good days, depending on compatibility or incompatibility. And you always want to try to go back and say, so even if you had to sit with a table of people that you didn't like, at lunch break, you'd go clump back with the people that you did like.
Right.
Because so that you could talk about the people you were stuck with for that day. It forces us to move out of our comfort zones. And so
Right.
when we talk about dehumanizing, yes, and the other end of that spectrum, because it's always a spectrum,
Mm-hmm.
is the need to be comfortable
Mm-hmm.
at the expense of growth, at the expense of inclusiveness, at the expense of, well, at the expense of your own life and existence, really, because we've
Right.
seen entire groups go down, like, right?
Right.
We're going down together because we're holding fast, we're standing strong, whatever. History shows us this over and over and over again.
Right.
So there's, sort of this inherent part, and I like to think that because I see so much evidence to support this,
Mm-hmm.
that we have grown and evolved. We
Yes.
can grow and evolve in this respect
And
as well.
continue. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and I feel like, I don't know if we need to have devolved so that we can come to see and understand it from that perspective, or if it's been perpetrated on us, against us.
Mm-hmm.
My conspiracy hat coming on now. I look around, and the my us versus them
Mm-hmm.
is here in the United States. Maybe this is true in other countries. I don't know. Well, I think about Myanmar, which just had their military take over their government.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
There's an us versus them. Their political group versus
the protest in India.
Yeah. I mean, so
In Russia.
yeah,
I mean, we could just, this is playing everywhere.
and I feel like it's because we're beginning to see that the us versus them that's at the street level, if we look up, we'll see the strings.
Mm-hmm. The, if we, as we stay, when we stay where we are, divided,
Yeah.
we can't join together to be who we can be.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are, like I said before, there are atrocities
Mm-hmm.
and violence that are
I'm
being
not trying
committed.
to minimize
No.
or downplay any of that.
No, not at all, because of the tribalism. And it comes to the question, what can we do about it again? What do we do about it?
If
We
anything.
mean, yeah, personally ourselves, how to address it, how to, as an empath,
Mm-hmm.
how to take care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
because these situations throughout the world are at different and lower vibrational levels than the majority of us would be at if we had a choice, and we do have a choice. So they are lower than what we want to be. We don't want to live in anger. And I'm going to say that a blanket statement for all of humanity. Now, sometimes we're angry and we have every right to be, but we don't want to live in anger.
It's exhausting.
So,
We've spent a whole year in fear. Are
Right.
you exhausted yet?
yeah, I read an article somewhere. They're like, yeah, this has been hitting on a year, and people are you starting to feel it? And I am.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I mean, I have been just hanging with the situation
Mm-hmm.
and flowing and moving with it and just, dealing.
Correct.
And so I am starting to feel the stresses, and that personally myself, the stresses and the tensions that go along with everything that is occurring regarding COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
And so I am feeling that too. And we can only focus on so much. We can only do so much as a singular human being.
Correct.
And I firmly believe, without a doubt, that the change, to Mahatma Gandhi, the change that we want to see has to start with us.
Yes.
But how I do that, and how Sonya does that, and how any of you do that may look very, very different
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
But one of the places that I need to start is to check myself when I am feeling angry at a group. And it doesn't matter what group. I need to look at what that's doing for me. And anger is not a bad thing.
No.
Anger can be a trigger for action.
It can be highly motivating. I just read an article about if you wanted to achieve some goal, create an enemy. And I was like, what?
Well, how about if we create the enemy like poverty?
Yeah.
Make that my enemy.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so then I can decide, okay, I feel anger. Do I want to do something about it or not?
Yeah.
And that's a valid question for me to ask. Or can I do something about it right now or not? And then when I get that answer, I can either move forward and take that action, figure out what that is, move forward and take it. Or if I can't or won't or choose not to do something about it, then it's probably good for me to somehow let it go.
I agree, because that is really the only two choices that you have.
Well, unless you're going to end up harming yourself.
Yes. And we don't want that.
And I've done that.
Yeah.
I've harmed myself, not in some ways, and not like taking a
Right.
knife to myself
Stressed
and harming
yourself
myself,
out,
but made myself sick.
overwhelmed yourself, what have you. Yes.
Absolutely.
And I've seen that too. I've seen that in the last year, and it hurts my heart to see that, because while there are some very real, credible threats, I feel like this is also a situation where the damage can be done long before, if ever, the threat comes to fruition.
Yeah.
Like you've already condemned yourself before there's ever even been, an actual reason to, and or someone else, because we see that too, where someone's being condemned before we've actually allowed the due diligence to, here in this country, it's innocent until proven guilty. And boy, we've not seen a whole lot of that. I just was reading an article about the number of Tucson teachers that have come down with the virus, and all the horrible things that were going back and forth in the feed. And most of it was because nobody bothered, a lot of them didn't bother to read the article. In the first place, well, this is what happens when you insist on sending your children back to school. Well, they have been online and not with teachers in the classroom. Everyone's been online since last March. So this is not related to opening up schools. And yet, pick your particular, string that you're going to pull for the day, and then just make sure you pull it with everyone that you engage with, which is why I haven't been on Facebook all, because that's what it feels like. It's like you get on there and it's like the bully on the corner going, I knew you'd walk down this street. And be like, I'm going back home. I thought I'd come out, it was a sunny day. I think I'm going to go back home.
Right.
And I don't look at that as, just ignoring or denying the problem. Some days it's me recognizing that I really don't want to engage with this at that level, because it's just going to create more of what I don't want to see in the world.
Right.
And other times I know that I can be much more effective at home doing the magic that I do there to help support the systems. And one of these things is just sharing this. If not because we're thinking this is going to make any big ripple changes in the world. It could. I'm down for that. This or something better, please.
Bring it.
Thank you. However, if, our 7 listeners...
Subscribers. Actually, don't we have 9?
Yes, we're up to 9 now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, by the way.
For
we really appreciate that. That they... I just lost my train of thought again.
Oh.
Anyway, if it helps you to be able to go, I hadn't thought about it like that. Or, yeah, you know what? I do find myself getting a little judgy McJudger about some things. Then, it's just open yourself up. Like the one thing that if I had a wish, and I had a wish for the world, and I would say, please, universe, my wish for the world today is that everyone has the capacity to take whatever it is that is in front of them in that given moment and just widen their stance and widen their view just a little bit more, see a little bit more of the picture, allow a little bit more understanding, release a little bit more judgment, open your heart just a little bit more. Thank you very much. Amen. That's all I want. Yeah. And that's what this really rolls around to. Open your heart. Did that move you?
That was lovely.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was lovely.
It was earnest. It was heartfelt.
Yes.
Open your heart just a little bit more.
Yes.
I challenge you. I triple dog dare you.
Well, that is totally, I mean, the answer to tribalism is compassion. Mm-hmm. And compassion, my experience is that compassion is the workhorse of my own spiritual practice. It is the workhorse of continued evolving. Mm-hmm. It is the workhorse of being able to function in this world.
Yeah. It's the brass ring that you get for riding the merry-go-round.
There's no weakness in compassion, not in true.
It's such a beautiful gift for yourself as well as for anyone else. It really is. I had a person that is struggling financially, and they put themselves in a real uncomfortable place and asked for some assistance. Mm-hmm. And I gave it. Mm-hmm. I'm sure along with a lot of others. It wasn't a lot. It was a little something. I had such compassion, and I felt so proud to be able to be in a space to offer the little bit that I offered.
Right.
Having been there myself.
Right. Absolutely.
And being too proud to ask for assistance, and having someone just instinctively know and come to me and say, hey, I feel like maybe you could use a little support right now, and feeling the brokenness of myself because I didn't do a good enough job of hiding that, and my wounding of my pride. And all of that is bullshit. We are here to engage and interact with each other. We come down here from unconditional, complete love and unity to forget everything, to be naked and wet and cold and screaming, and then have
without having any idea what the fuck just happened.
Right? And then to either receive or not receive all of the basics,
right,
that enable us to be able to have the journey that we said, sure, I volunteer, I'll go down there,
right,
and go from nothingness to unconditional love. I mean, let's just think about that for 1 second. Someone shared a really great example once that about Jesus the Christ, and they said it was talking in context of compressing that great big universal spirit beingness, that unity, that going back to source. Thank you. Couldn't think of what I wanted to say there. And coming from source to third dimension. And there's only been one being that's done that.
Squeezing yourself into this teeny little meat body.
So imagine having a pair of jeans that you held on to from high school. And your 50-year-old self is going to try and squeeze in those teeny weeny jeanies. That's kind of like, or you have a baby and then you want to put your post-pregnancy jeans back on, and not quite there yet, right? Because the fundus is still among us, you know? And the discomfort at that. Before we started this, I was breaking in a new pair of jeans. I had to change them before I wasn't comfortable sitting. I had to go change them. And so to be in that level of discomfort, to squeeze yourself into those skinny jeans like that, and then on top of, like, that's just enough there, right? Think about all the people that, like, how many people can you get into a VW Bug? And they got 18 people in a telephone box, but they weren't comfortable.
No.
Right? And I think, if I remember correctly, most of the time what you hear them is, "Are we there yet? Get off my head." And instead, he spread the good word of unconditional love and brotherhood. Mm-hmm. So whether you believe in that or that's just a fairy tale matters not. Let's just look at it from the concepts of it, right? Any being doesn't have to be a religious deity. You come down here, and instead of squeezing all of your consciousness into your body like he did, you get 20 to 40%, let's say. Because I don't think people are coming with half their consciousness. And I personally know from my own experience that you can't really go below about 17, 18%. The soul just gets fried. Trust me, don't do it.
Don't do that.
And so we come down here and we have this great time of trying to remember who we are, to come back to that heart space, to come back to that unconditional love, to come back to that source point in a human frame on a planet of emotions. So not just the one of emotion, of love, but all the emotions and all the ranges. And this is why, we say anger is not a bad thing in context. Sadness is not a bad thing in context.
Right.
Compassion is not a bad thing in context. Right? So look at yourself and look at what possible reason might I have had from a soul perspective to be here at this moment in Earth time.
It's a big moment.
It is. That right there can keep you busy for a while.
It's a big moment.
Hopefully through the Mercury retrograde anyway. Do your research. How can I understand that the purpose isn't to turn us all against each other? The purpose is to bring us all together.
Right.
I mean, that's really why we're all here.
It's interesting. I've had this thought many times, and it's one of the intentions that I have in life. Mm-hmm. So in talking earlier and talking about the different groups, right? The different support groups, this, and the infighting that occurs, or that can occur. There is a real, and I'm sure that you've seen it, there's a real sense of empathy and compassion that occurs when someone experiences something similar to you.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
So, and that's a good thing. That's human connection at work, right? That's a good thing. And then there can be a lot of sympathy and understanding when someone in your tribe experiences something. And once again, that's not a bad thing either at all. But wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't it be just amazing if we could have empathy and compassion for the entire humanity tribe and understand that everyone has their pain and we don't have to compare what it is. And just because I made it through something doesn't mean that you should be shamed because you haven't yet.
Right.
Because there is, if all of us, if there's the understanding that all of us are having this human experience, which has all the pain, all the sadness, all the loneliness, all the things that break you, all the things that bring you up, may have different titles attached to them. But we don't have to experience it ourselves. We as humanity can grow past that so that we can simply offer compassion and empathy because someone in our group of humanity is experiencing it.
And I think in equal measure, the joy and the celebration of life in each of its simplistic moments in life far outweigh all of that other stuff. And the reason that I say that is because I have also seen, and I remember I watched a documentary on this where it had something to do with happiness. Mm-hmm. So, of course, as a joy detective, I had to check it out. And they were trying to find the secret to happiness. And they went all around the world, and they actually found this tribe. I think it was in the Himalayas, maybe. I don't think they were Tibetan, but anyway. And what they found was that this tribe had no running water, no electricity, all of these different challenges, mountain communities. And yet they were the happiest and most peaceful people on the planet, right, based on this set of, scientific study parameters that they created for this. And it was fascinating to them, mm-hmm, that, from the scientific perspective, mm-hmm, that even if they were introduced to these things, right, like electricity or whatnot,
right,
there was a curiosity, but there was no real desire or need to breathe. Like, they had everything that they needed, mm-hmm, right? And so while some would look at that as, oh, but we've got to help them, they have so little.
Right.
It's really, sometimes we have to take those blinders off and see what they have that we can't understand or appreciate because of our position of where we're looking at that.
Right.
And I've seen that happen in families where, maybe they didn't have a lot of money and they didn't know how they were going to take care of all of the children that they had. And the state wanted to come in and intervene and help because this is a burden on you and this isn't fair to the children. Except that while they didn't have shoes and their clothes were a little ratty, they were loved. Mm-hmm. They had joy. There was laughter. They played. It wasn't until someone came in and said, we're going to put you in a better home, that you began to see the pain and the suffering. Mm-hmm. And, and so there's so much judgment, and who are we to judge?
Right. I have asked that. I asked that question a number of times in the psychology and anthropology, or sociology and anthropology classes that I took in college. My teacher really appreciated that.
And again, it's just another way of allowing yourself to just widen that view just a little bit more. See what you don't see. Look for what you're not seeing.
Right.
How about that? And that's why I love to use the word observance.
Right.
Because observance is really about taking that step back and looking at everything and telling me, what do you observe, right? And as intuitive readers, we may use something as a medium, but really all that is just something that is giving us a space to observe.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The meaning of that card may not have anything to do with what our eyeball picked up on, mm-hmm, right? And what it created or generated within our inner knowing.
Right.
So I wish that I had some clear answers. I said a prayer. Go back, rewind if you want to hear the prayer. But then join me in that prayer. I guess we just really have so much love and compassion for this life experience that when the days get us a little more perplexed, mm-hmm, all we can do is just talk about it.
Right.
And just talk through it. And maybe we find solutions and maybe we don't. But I think that is the key factor here too, is the talking and the allowing the conversations to happen and the opening of to each other.
Right.
So that we can understand what we don't understand or see what we don't see from all perspectives, not just, well, you're wrong and let me tell you why and here's what you need to see to understand, mm-hmm, because you've got that on the flip side. No, you're wrong,
right,
and this is what you need to understand.
Right.
So a curiosity, a curious mind, an observant mind, an open mind, and an open heart.
And an acceptance of another's experience.
And
I mean, that's
and
always
that it
blown...
doesn't have to be yours.
No.
There's no one is asking anything from you or of you.
No. Other than to simply accept that their experience, they, whoever they are, is what it is.
Yeah.
And was what it was. Ever since I was a child, I have felt like I was different, that I didn't belong, that I mean, obviously I'm human, but I didn't really feel like I came from humanity.
Yeah, right.
Right? So I was like, I don't. But I always said, and if you know me, you have heard me speak about humans in the third party.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the thing that I find most amazing about humans is the ability to change and alter and grow
And
adapt.
Yeah.
And that they don't give up.
No.
I mean, there are times when you just throw your hands up in the air and you're like, I'm done. And there's times when you may choose to leave the earth. But over and over and over again, the majority of humans, the majority of time, do not give up in moving towards whatever it is that they feel is worthwhile in their life. And I find that awe-inspiring.
And not in a way of, this is my firmly entrenched stance or belief, and I'm just going to double down on it.
No.
Again, it just to be clear on what she's saying, it's about the ability to move forward.
Right.
Not to go backward or to stand still.
Right.
And that's what we're coming to. I feel. I hope.
mean, I think that's what we're being forced to.
I do. I feel like this is. I mean, as much as at least that's the answer that I get when I keep asking why.
Why are we going through this?
When is this going to end?
Yes.
Well, and I do feel like it's getting, because it is becoming so much more intense. It's becoming, it's the blue flame of the fire. And so...
which is the hottest flame that there is, right? Or is it white?
Yeah.
Blue? Yeah. Okay.
Right. It's this little centerpiece there,
right. Gotcha.
And okay, maybe this is what needs to happen. So, okay, we got to go there, right? No Pollyanna stuff here. This. We're stirring stuff. I talk.
If you're going to become a diamond, you got to go through the pressure,
right,
of becoming the diamond.
Right. That carbon's got to squeeze and squeeze and squeeze and squeeze, and we are being squeezed, and pretty soon we're going to be a diamond. And there are many, many facets to a diamond.
Right.
Many facets, and every single one gives you a different view. Right?
And every single one is as important.
Yeah.
And as required for the full beauty.
Yep. For the cut, for the color, for the clarity.
Right.
I love that.
The three
C's.
Yeah.
However, call them the 3 C's for life, right? Cut out that stuff that no longer serves you. Color your world with love and light. And then you'll get clear. I think I've just come up with a new... All right. We may have to save that. Roll that one back for another... I might be onto something there.
There you go.
But thank you for, suggesting that we have this conversation. I was literally choked on my tea when she's like, "All right, why don't we talk about that?"
She did.
Because I'm never afraid to have the uncomfortable conversations, to have the confrontations. I'm the rip the Band-Aid. I would rather do it. I don't want to bring distress upon anyone.
Right.
And I don't want my words to bring distress. Do I care? I get to speak my truth, right? And I don't want to be an asshole about it. So that's my duality. That's my balance, as I'm trying to find that tripod, that third leg that will help me be, a more sturdy table. And I can't just sometimes it just spills out of me. And I know in a Mercury retrograde, I really need to be silent. So I just hope that, you know, maybe there's someone else out there that's just like, I'm so glad you said that, because I had all those same, and that's who we're talking to today.
Right.
Because the only way that we're going to be able to really find solutions is if we are open enough to be able to reach our hand across the table and say, hey, let's talk about this, right? In any couple relationship or anything like that, any kind of difference, or we've got to be able to sit down across the table and talk to each other and mediate and meditate. And that's what I'm seeing that's not being made available right now.
Right.
And that makes me wonder, why not? If everything, you can't sign any contract for anything. I don't care if you're signing up for an app or to go into the hospital or to buy a house. Every contract has mediation, arbitration. Where the hell is our mediation and arbitration in our world right now?
Well, speaking specifically about this country, that was never held to something important.
But it's in every contract.
It is.
Some lawyer somewhere decided this is what we got to put in every contract, and it's there.
Right.
Right? And maybe it's to keep us out of court, but we're not. We're jumping right over that, and we're going to court every other day.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. Where I'm going. And I'm not
One moment, 4-point turn.
Yeah. It's just, you know, open the heart. I'm going to open my heart in every moment. I'm going to, no matter what I ingest, rather than throwing it back up. Isn't that lovely? I'm going to, whatever comes my way, I'm going to open my heart if I find that there is resistance.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my call to action for myself.
Look at what triggers you.
And open my heart.
And open your heart to it to understand why.
Yeah.
And I'm back to compassion will do it for us. Compassion will do it for us. And find our way through that.
To become a global tribe.
Right.
The one thing that we can all share together, the one common thing that we all have here, and we see this we're experiencing it right now. Mm-hmm. What's the one common thing that we all are experiencing together, and how are we behaving?
Right.
How are we reacting?
Right.
How are we triggered? How are we supporting? There's so much out there, good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
We're being given an opportunity. I really don't want to think about what might come down the pike if this one doesn't serve its purpose. Because again, I would love to say that we learn our lessons lovingly, gently, fun. We don't. We have to get smacked upside the head.
I don't. I mean, personally, I haven't.
And so
I have a history of not.
Well, I learned quick, and I don't want to get smacked upside the head. So
right.
I'm, willing to shift and grow and learn and open my heart.
So when you feel the pull of the tribe, as always, right? The answer that I always have is stop.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Yeah. Like
I have said, Nolan and I share that. My son and I share that.
Mm-hmm.
Slow down.
Mm-hmm.
And decide how you want to respond.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I feel complete.
All right. This was good.
It was. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you will tune in again next week. You can find us on Podbean, YouTube. Our Facebook group is in my experience community, and in _my_experience podcast. No podcast, just in my experience on Instagram.
On Instagram.
Blah, 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 blah.
La, la, la.
And in my experience 1111@gmail.com if you'd like to send us a private note, or there are comment sections in the YouTube and the Podbean too. or share something in the group. Maybe there's something that you've had an awareness of that you want to bring into the community group to talk about what came up for you with this episode or any of the episodes.
Right. We truly do want to hear your thoughts and your experiences in all of this too. Because we are all together.
We are.
In this human experience doing this.
So thanks much. Have a great week. And we'll see you next time. I'm Sonya Lee.
And I'm Piperlyne. Take care of you.